Just ate it. I was sitting there staring right at it and watched him eat it. Got him, boy. It's a good start. Feel like a decent fish.
Yeah. It's all right.
Hey, I'm John Thill. Today I'm Fish Head. My son Nate and I are out doing a little bit of walleye fishing, and good fish to start the day right there, bud. Look at that. Take that, nice eater-sized walleye. You know, I think the number one thing I get asked, whoa, hang on, buddy. The number one thing I get asked, sports shows or boat launches or wherever it is bobber fishing questions. And I think part of that is we do a lot of bobber shows because we really enjoy bobber fishing. And this is how Nate and I fish a lot. That's a great walleye to start. Nice 16-incher, we'll get rid of him. So here's what we're gonna do today. On today's show, we're just gonna talk about bobber fishing. And we're gonna talk about how we do it from beginning to end. You know, what did we do on shore today to get ready to go? All the way through, how do we catch fish when we're out on the water? And there's tips and tricks that you can take to any lake, no matter where you fish, and do the things we're doing today, and it'll help you catch fish. So stay right where you're at. Fish Head's coming up, and this is gonna be a good one. Oh, there. There he goes, huh? Got him. This goes to show you sometimes you just gotta have patience. You know, when you watch me bobber fish a lot, and Nate and I do this on the weekends, but we do a lot of moving around and looking for fish. It's very seldom that I just pick a spot and say, ooh, I'm gonna bobber fish right there. I do a lot of looking for where I wanna fish, not based on the spot. What I'm basing it on, you got it for me, bud?
Yep.
That's a good fish, huh?
Ain't bad.
What I'm basing it on is, are there fish on the spot? That's the big deal to me. And when I look at it, what I'm doing, and you know, sonars have gotten so good over the years, I can actually drive around and see these fish on these spots. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to pick high percentage spots. You know, I mean, I'm trying to pick spots where what you're gonna find is there might be a hump, a little bit of a rock pile, a little something that's holding these fish. And as soon as you find those spots, you go ahead and just throw him back. He's a good fish. As soon as you find these spots, then what you're gonna do is drive around and look for fish. So, you know, it's not a deal where when I pull up, I just say there's gonna be fish here, there's gonna be fish there. What we actually do is we pick those high percentage spots. And when you look at a map, usually what you're gonna see on the map is you're gonna see some humps in different areas. And all along this structure that I'm fishing today, there's humps. Most of these fish, especially when the wind's blowing like this morning, they're gonna relate to those humps. So I'm driving around that hump until I see them, and once I see them, we're putting a bobber out. Now, a lot of times it'll be Nate's, okay? Then I'll just go upwind, and that's my marker for where those fish are, and now we'll just park the boat with the spot lock system and just float our floats right back over the top of those fish. And then we'll have some patience too, because where you see one, usually there's 4, 5, 6 of them, right?
Yep.
Let's get these back in. Get that reset. That was a good eye right there. That was quick. You're down already, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Attaboy. You know, one of the things you'll notice, we use pretty long rods when we bobber fish. And I want to explain to you why we do that. Let me get this reeled in and out of your way. That's good fish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Okay. One of the things that we do very deliberately is we use longer rods. These are 8.5 foot rods we use for bobber fishing. Okay? Good fish, Nate. Good job. Here's what I'm gonna let you go ahead and get him out of there, and I'm gonna explain the rod situation that we use. We use these longer rods for one reason. Right there, Nate was in a scenario where there was a lot of slack out there, wasn't there?
Yeah, that's a good fish.
Yeah, that's an awesome fish. But one of the things that happens is when you go to set the hook on a fish when you got slack out, If you're using a shorter rod and you go to set the hook, you're not moving as much line. But when we're using these longer 8.5 foot rods, what happens?
You got a whole ton of rod there, so it gives you a lot of leeway to kind of feel them out and get to them longer.
Right, and here's the other thing it does. It compensates for any mistake you might make, because here's what you got to remember. When we're up here like this and then setting the hook up over our head, if you have a 6.5 foot rod, let's say you're trying to use that jig rod for bobber fishing, you're not moving nearly as much line nearly as far as you are with an 8.5 foot rod when you come back. And a lot of times what that enables you to do is just take slack out that you might have missed while you're during the hook set. So when people ask me about what kind of equipment am I using float fishing, number one, I'm using just a standard good spinning reel, okay? But my rods, they are all a salmon steelhead version. They're a medium to a medium light, so they've got a nice soft tip, and they're 8.5 feet long. And I use 2-piece rods for my bobber fishing a lot of times because I can simply take them apart, put them into my rod lockers. It's a really simple deal, and you don't got to break the bank on bobber rods, because what you got to remember is we're not going for feel here. I mean, this is an eyesight deal. When we see that float go down, we know, and then we can just reel to it, and with that long rod, you can come right up over the top. And even when you make a mistake, you can get them most of the time. Good job. That was a nice fish, bud.
Let's get another one.
Let's get them back down. Down again?
Yeah. Got him.
It's like a decent one, huh?
Feels pretty good.
Good. Oh, that looks like a decent fish. You know, the other thing I'll tell you about these big rods is it enables you to use a little bit less drag. And that's because you've got more in the tip. And it really makes it so, you know, Nate doesn't have to give this fish as much with the reel and give him a chance to run the other way and turn and spit that hook, because he can stay a little tighter on him with that long rod, because his give, it's a really good eye. Look at that. Awesome, dude. I'm just gonna grab him out of there for you because I'm right here. This thing is just another awesome walleye. Look at that. Man, got himself unhooked for us too, didn't he? Look at that. What a great fish, Nate. Good job, buddy. I'm gonna let this fish go, and look at that. What an awesome walleye. What a great fish. There you go. Why don't you go ahead and set him back in, okay? And I want to show you what we're using here. Let me just reel mine up. I want to show you the setup, because the setup is very, very important, okay? Number one, we're using a Thill balsa float. Now, this is a Pro Series XXL. I use the Pro Series a lot. I use Wobble Bobber a lot. These are my favorite two floats that Thill makes, and let me tell you why. In the top, with the Pro Series, you've got a brass grommet. In the Wobble Bobber, you got a brass grommet on both ends. But with this Pro Series, you got a brass grommet up top. Now, here's what this makes happen. This line slides through. I mean, it's slick fast. So when we throw out, that line gets down there really, really quick, okay? But the other thing is, when we're setting hooks throughout the day, if you're using a float without a brass grommet in the top, eventually it's gonna cut a groove in the top foam part of the float. You'll never have that with a Thill Pro Series float, because you got a brass grommet in the top. So you can fish this float all day long, all week long. Heck, I've got floats tied on. These floats that we're using today, we're tied on opening of fishing. And it's mid-June right now, okay? So we're able to use these floats for a long period of time. The other thing about it that I think is really, really important is when you watch me bobber fish, float fish, I never use a plain hook, and here's why I don't. I always use a 16th ounce jig. This is a Lindy live bait jig, okay? And then I've got one split shot up on top just to help get it down there. That's the weight. But this 16th ounce live bait jig has a wide gap hook. It's a small little jig, but here's what it does. If you look at a jig hanging there, see how this is hanging horizontal? Now I can put that leech on there and he can stay horizontal. You add a little bit of color down there. You know, today this blue and white, man, this thing's just on fire. But the big thing is we're horizontal. That leech can hang there horizontal, and these walleyes think it's the real thing. I mean, it just looks natural to them. It looks like a natural leech coming by.
You know, when people think of bobber fishing, they think of it as just sitting and watching a bobber, but when we do it, we're actually kind of aggressive with it. And with the bobber, you'll get a bunch of action from waves and it's sitting there, yeah. But what you really want to get is that extra stuff. So what we do is we give it a little pop on it, and it'll give it a little different action in front of that fish to try to get him to come up and grab it.
There he goes. Took it right when I jiggled it. Did that jiggle trick, and he ate it. Oh boy.
Feel like a good one?
Look at this. Man, that's what Nate was talking about right there though. That little jiggle doesn't take much. If that fish is sitting there looking at it, and you all of a sudden just do that little jiggle. I'm gonna tell you what, I'll trade you sides. Let's go over here. That fish right there, he was probably staring at it. Oh yeah, another great eye. Look at this one. Look at that. Oh, I tell you, I'm just a kid at heart when it comes to this. That right there, that is just too much fun. I mean, every single day I could come out and fish like this and just have so much fun doing it. Like I said, this is how I used to guide a lot. And man, everybody used to tell me, man, I had customers that would honestly come back and say, can we go bobber fishing after they did it one time? Because they realized not only how productive this is, but also how much fun it was to go out and do. Look at that. Pop that jig out of there. What an awesome walleye. It's just one after another today. Look at that. That is so cool. Get out of here, buddy. There he goes. That's awesome.